Hello Year 10, this is Miss Dawn here. Now this afternoon I'm going to be talking to you about your Unit 3 Citizenship exam. Now I'm sure that at the moment many of you have no idea what this exam is about and maybe not feeling very confident about the mock. So the learning intention for this afternoon is really simple, that I'd like you to gain a kind of better understanding really about what the Unit 3 is going to be about, and also really to gain a bit of confidence about how to approach some of those different kinds of questions that you're going to face. So in order for you to achieve that learning intention, what you're going to do is you're going to watch and listen 5 different videos that I've created which explain different questions in the Unit 3 exam. Now whilst you're watching those videos, it's your responsibility to create a set of notes which are going to have tips and guidelines really on how to complete the exam itself. I'll give an example in a minute of how you might create those notes in a successful way, so please kind of listen to the tips that I give you there. Now in the lesson you'll also have an opportunity to start answering some of the exam questions, but please don't feel you've got to do the whole paper in this lesson because it's not really possible. But your homework will be to complete those questions for this Thursday, so we're going to peer mark them in the lesson. So if you could write this in your planner now, that would be really brilliant. Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to have a quick kind of demonstration of the paper with you, just go through this. If you have a quick look on the front cover, it kind of looks very similar to the Unit 1 question paper that you just did for me, but there's a few key differences that you need to know. So at this point I would probably open a Word document and make sure that you've got the Unit 3 heading there and start to write down some of the key things that you need to know about this paper. So we can see here that it's all about citizenship in context. Now what that means is that we're going to look at some kind of key citizenship ideas and themes, but through the study of one particular topic area. Now that topic area is this one here, which is changing communities, social and cultural identities. So lots of those topics you did in Year 9 about multicultural Britain, what it means to have an identity in a society, and particular issues that we might be facing, I guess, in our society, like immigration, asylum seekers. These are all the kinds of things that are going to be included. So what that means is that all the questions in this paper will be focused on those particular topics. Now this exam is also slightly longer than your Unit 1. It's 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now later on in this video there's a slide which goes through the different kind of questions and some suggested timing, so it's worth having a look at that before your mock exam and sort of familiarising yourself with it. It also tells you that you have to have a sources booklet. Now this is something which is different to the Unit 1, where you do have sources but they're not in a particular booklet that you have to use. So if I just scroll down here, just quickly show you what that looks like, and you should have a copy in front of you. Again, it's going to have its own front cover. Now you can see that the sources here, there are a range of different sources. Some have photos, okay, as we see here, and some don't. And what you will notice is that the sources are labelled A, B, C and so on. Now it's really important that when you're answering those questions in your paper where they say refer to source A, that you actually refer to the correct source, because otherwise obviously you can't answer the questions correctly. It's also worth, I think, having a quick look through these sources before you answer any of the questions in the paper, and while you're reading them, kind of look out for any examples of bias. So that's where someone might be being one-sided and giving an opinion. Also see if you can pick out some opinions and facts that might be included within those sources, because there's usually a question which asks you to identify that. Now also notice that you can actually work some things out from the sources by where they come from, so don't ignore some of this information that comes at the bottom here, like the fact it comes from a website or from a particular organisation. You know, are some of these things more trusted than others, do you think? So you're going to have your source booklet, and you need to have that in front of you whilst you're answering the paper. The other key difference I just want to identify with you here is that unlike Unit 1, in this paper you have to answer all of the questions. There is no option, you have to answer every single one in this paper, and there are 15 questions in total. Now in this paper there are also some slightly longer style questions that you have to answer, so I'll go through those in the following videos. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint here. Now if I was making some notes, just here's a few things that I just said there. If I was going to be making some successful notes here, here's an example. You can see I've used a kind of subheading. Okay, now that subheading, that subheading just kind of identifies some of the key things really that you need to know. I've also used bullet points, and I've really made those short and concise with the key things that you need to know. There's no point in writing pages and pages if you don't need to. I've also used colour, and some of you might think images are quite useful here in terms of remembering things, but they just again pick out on some of the things that you really need to remember. So this is what your notes should be starting to look like here. Okay, this is the slide that I was telling you about, which goes through suggested timings. Now I'm not going to read through all of this, but I'll just quickly tell you. On the left hand side here you've got the different question numbers. In this column it tells you kind of what sort of marks are available for those questions. So always questions 1 to 7 will be worth 1 mark each. It also tells you what type of question it is and what you need in order to be able to answer that. And it gives you the suggested timings here. Now if you add that up, hopefully if my maths is correct, that should equal 1 hour and 15 minutes there. So the last little bit of this video is just going to start looking at the multiple choice questions that you get in the paper. So questions 1 to 7 in your paper are usually multiple choice. Now I've put 5 minutes there. Obviously when you first do them it might take a bit longer, but really you need to do these questions as quickly as possible. So here's an example of the question in your paper. It says, which of the following newspapers in source B experienced an increase in readership between 1988 and 1998? Now there are 4 possible answers that you're given. Now what I would recommend you do here is obviously look down each of the examples. So it says The Sun, The Times, Daily Express, Financial Times, and look at the source and then go through each of those one by one. So if we look at The Sun, has that increased between 1988, where there was 25%, and 1998, where there was 21%? Well, no, because it's gone down, so The Sun can't be the answer. If we go down to The Times, we can see that there were 2% who were reading that in 1988 and 4% in 1998. So if we go back to the question here, it says which one experienced an increase, so which one kind of got higher in readership. The answer has to be The Times there. So what we have to do is we put a cross in the box and that's it done. If you make a mistake you have to put a line through the box and then you put your answer in the correct one. So make sure you just read the instructions carefully. So at this point I'm going to stop, and I think it would be really useful just to spend maybe 5 minutes making sure you've got your notes for that section on your Word document, and then have a go at doing some of those multiple choice questions.